From Montgomery to Hill, Green County and Paris, Portia taking on the Blackbelt, and she ain't scared. Marengo County, something county, Will Cops and Barber, interviewing everybody, sister, brothers, and mamas. It's Portia.
First presidential debate of the year, you had 10 candidates that was on the stage last night. Last night you had my boy Cory Booker, who y'all know that I'm biased about simply because of the fact that he came to the city of Uniontown to bring highlight to the injustices that happen in Uniontown as it relates to environmental injustice. Then you had, let's see, you had Elizabeth Warren. You had Castro. You had Beto O'Rourke. I'm trying to find the list of people because I don't want to miss anybody.
You had Governor Jay Inslee. Had Mayor Bill de Blasio. Had Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
Right.
You had Senator Cory Booker. You had John Delaney. I think his first name was John. And the fact that I can't remember his full name is position. A lot about his performance. But yeah, I mean, you had a very spirited conversation among some great statesmen. So
let's do your top 5. Who was your top 5 from last night?
My top 5. First, let me say, Portia, thank you for your leadership and everything that you do for the state of Alabama and your local community. You know, I'm always inspired to work with you and just watch you stand up and advocate for those in your community. That said, my top 5, and I was very, very in tune with last night's debate. And so number 5 on my list is Governor Jay Inslee. I thought. Okay.
I just said, let me hear why Governor Jay Inslee was in your top 5.
Well, I'll tell you, number 1, he won the best tie contest. He had a very nice tie on. It was kind of hunter green. I think many of your viewers may agree with me, but I appreciated his tie. That said, he only spoke for 5 minutes, so he wasn't, nationally known. The moderators didn't particularly lean toward him the way they did Elizabeth Warren and others, but he used his time wisely because here's the top line thing for me. A debate is a dog fight, right? It's different than campaigning on the stump in cities across the nation. It is a dog fight. And when you have 10 people on the stage, you got to jump in there and you got to make sure that you are heard by the American people. And Governor Inslee did just that. He jumped in at different times, maybe interrupted from time to time, not as bad as de Blasio did, but you have to get your voice in there. You know, when asked what is the greatest threat to America, he simply said, it is Donald Trump. And that was resounding. But I don't think that was a moment he didn't try to get a soundbite. I think he was really speaking from his convictions. And so I think Inslee at number 5. Number 4 for me was Mayor Bill de Blasio. And so when I saw de Blasio,
Mayor Bill de Blasio, for those of you who don't know, is from from New York. It's the mayor
of New York. And so, hey, he's not popular in his own city. When I saw him announce a few weeks ago, all of my food almost came out of my stomach. That said, I didn't expect much from him on last night, but you saw him go out there, use his time wisely, roll his sleeves up, and you really saw what a New Yorker is all about, a good New York fist fight. And he got in, he challenged other members on their positions when he disagreed. He understood that it was a dog fight again amongst 10 people, and he got his voice heard and got his positions out. Was he right on every particular topic? We can debate that. But but leaving last night, I remember that Bill de Blasio was on the stage and he had some very memorable moments. So number 3 is Secretary Julian Castro. Now, let me tell you, I expected nothing from Castro, nothing at all. I'm gonna be honest with you. I expected nothing at all from Secretary Castro. He started out, and I have notes. I was looking at my notes from what I was writing from the beginning of the debate to the end. It was drastically different on Secretary Castro because he played the long game. He was slow but steady. He only had one big moment where he punched Beto in the mouth per se, but he was just steady. He wasn't loud. He wasn't brash. He was just steady, and he was very practical, very smart on each issue as it came about. And he just slowly built his case. And by the end of the night, he was running well. He found his rhythm, and he found that perfect moment to challenge Beto, and that we all remember. And so I think Castro was number 3 in my book. He could be number 2, and I wouldn't argue with those who put him at 1. But he did very well. He really, really raised my personal expectations of him, because at first he was putting me to sleep, but he woke up, he found his rhythm, and he really asserted himself into last night's dogfight.
Shante Randa said, from Castro?
What does she mean?
What do you mean from Castro? I think she's talking about you being surprised that from Castro, but we're going to make sure in a minute. Yeah,
and maybe that's on me that I haven't paid much attention to him.
Okay.
And that's not the cast aspersion that he doesn't have any talent. We know that he's a statesman and he can do a lot of great things for our country. I'm just saying personally, I didn't expect a lot from him. It's a lot of I'm sorry, And so number 2 is my friend Cory Booker. Yeah. So and I told you yesterday, you're a Booker.
I am not a groupie.
Okay.
I am not a groupie.
And so I was blessed last year to meet Senator Booker and spend some time with him when he was down doing some work for Democrats in Texas. And he is one of the smartest guys you will ever meet. And so last night, he was the same thing. He was very smart. He was strategic. He was practical. Did he have a big moment that we can remember outside of the meme with the side eye looking at Beto speaking Spanish? Not particularly. I don't think many of us can say, what did he say last night that stood out? But he was in every conversation. He was smart about it. He strategically positioned himself in those places, and he was just smart, Cory Booker, But given that, again, he hadn't been polling well in the last few weeks as well, I think he did himself a great job to kind of lift his profile. Now, will that translate into higher polling in the next couple of weeks? That remains to be seen. But I would say Booker did a very solid job last night. He didn't ruin it. I'll just say that. Okay. And number 1 for me is Elizabeth Warren. I think that's most of Americans' choice. She was very, very good last night. I think the moderators did help and give her a lot of questions. They came to her a lot. She came out of the gate speaking on her top issues, the debt crisis, tuition debt crisis in this country. She spoke about breaking up tech companies and these giant tech monopolies as well. One of her top issues. Also talked about taxation for the wealthy, her pet issues, and she did a great job, struck the right tone, and did a lot early. Now, I will say she disappeared down the stretch.
Right.
So she wasn't stellar across the board, but she did enough.
She did great on the first half of the debate.
Yeah, she did enough in that first hour to hold her over, because she was invisible probably the last 30 minutes of the debate, in my opinion. But that is my top 5.
All right. So even with the top 5, I want to talk about a couple of people that you did not talk about, like Delaney.
Okay.
John Delaney. I think he did very, very well when it came to healthcare. Medicare and healthcare is a topic that is hot. It's not a hot topic. I can't say that because it's a necessity. These are things that people need. People need healthcare. And I think what and this is something that Democrats do, and I agree with him, that Democrats need to understand is that you want to say Medicaid for all, but I have friends that, like my friend Gloria, I think Gloria's on there. Gloria, you can chime in, that she's a chiropractor, and she was talking about when she billed the private insurance, the amount that she gets from the private insurance versus the amount that she gets from Medicare for the same care. And the amount that she gets from Medicare is much lower on the Medicare side than it is on the private insurance side. So when you're thinking about doctors and people that are in business, because healthcare is a business,
right,
in our rural areas who already get the lowest amount for the services that they provide, if you do Medicare care for all, we already have problem with rural hospital closing and things of that nature. It would destroy what's already on life support as itself. So that's why I say that I like Delaney, and I think he stepped up in that aspect of everything that he said, even under gun control, was common sense stuff. And those are things. We got a couple of comments. And I'm gonna see. First of all, whatever, Shantae, I'm gonna skip that one. Tuition crisis only will help people that went to public school. What are your thoughts on that?
The tuition crisis only will help those that went to public school.
Not private institution. Like Miles is a private institution. It's not a public school. It's not a Alabama State, A&M. I think Texas Southern. Most SWAC schools are public universities. So she's saying that the tuition crisis and under her particular plan, as it relates to Elizabeth Warren, will only help those people who got loans in public school. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I mean, I don't know the numbers on that. I would assume that most of the debt in America, and you can quote me on this and we can fact check this in a moment, most of the tuition debt in America probably comes from publicly funded institutions. And so, yeah, and I had to look deeper into her plan to see more specifics about it. But, you know, listen, yeah. Hold on, I just saw something. Hold on, Portia. I just saw something come on my screen real quick.
That was her statement. And Tamara asked you, what was your number one?
My number one what?
Your number one for in the debate.
Oh, it was Elizabeth Warren.
Okay, it was Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah,
I don't think she heard it. That's why she asked.
Elizabeth Warren, yeah.
Okay.
But going back really quick, going back to that tuition crisis deal. Listen, I think whether it's Warren's plan or whomever's plan, I think we got a lot of work to do, you know, over the next 15 to 20 to 25 years to try to solve this issue. Because look, everyday Americans are trying to achieve their dreams. We're told that, hey, we need to go to school and get a high quality education, and folks will take on more debt to go get a $40,000 or a $50,000 job to take care of their families. And so it's going to continue to compound. Interest rates are continuing to rise as well. So it's just a conundrum across the board, whether it's Warren, Delaney, whoever comes up with a plan. I think it's going to be a huge issue. So we need to attack that however we can.
All right.
But thank you for the question, Ms. Felder.
All right. I got to take this down because Shantae got a whole paragraph right here.
Appreciate you, Shantae.
Let's see. It won't even okay, let's see. All right, there we go. About 43 million adult Americans, roughly 1 in 6 of the U.S. population older than age 18, currently carry a federal student loan and owe 1.5 trillion in federal student loan debt, plus an estimated 119 billion in student loan from private sources that are not backed by the government. She's looking for the school background. So with the debt that's coming for school, and if school is supposed to be so important and so, you know, beneficial to society, how do you think that?
Here's how we solve the problem. You know, make college free. That's how we solve the problem. Make college free. Make it accessible to all Americans. If there's poverty in America, you're going to have issues about folks from certain neighborhoods and certain walks of life being able to access, you know, credit, capital, loans, and things of that nature. And so, unless you have a stack of cash that you can pay for your room and board and tuition, we're going to have issues. So, how about we just make it free? You know, in the richest country in the world, we ought to be able to prioritize high quality education for every American who wants to go. Now, those who don't want to go, try to see if we can pay for trade schools and apprenticeships and things of that nature. But let's make sure that we're putting people in a position where they can go put food on the table and make a good living for themselves. So we ought to, if we don't make it free, we ought to defray the cost of tuition a whole hell of a lot.
All right. Felicia wants to know, how can you make college free?
Well, that's a good question, Felicia. I always say we can always go to our military department and look at the money at the Pentagon. They sometimes can account for where dollars are going. Yeah. And that's always an unquestioned part of the budget. And don't get me wrong. We have to do everything we can to secure our borders, to secure this nation, and make sure every American is safe. But if our priorities are where they need to be, we need to make sure we pay teachers more, and we can also take something out of that military budget and make sure that we can make college free. Now, there are other places that we look at different line items that we can also pull from I don't have the information in front of me, but I would always start at that military budget to break up that military industrial complex.
All right. Tamara wanted to know what happened with Kamala Harris. Sorry, I had to step out for a minute, so I missed some stuff. So Kamala would debate tonight. That's why we're doing the show an hour early, so we can discuss last night, and then we'll discuss tonight next Thursday. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing.
But I am anxious, just like you are, ma'am, to hear from my dear sister Kamala Harris. I'm excited to see her performance tonight, and I know she will do well.
I hope she will, because she's gonna get a feeler. Let's go real quick back to the people that was that was on the debate that didn't get enough time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can we? So we spoke about the top 5. Can we talk about the losers per se?
Yes, that's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah. Let's go to the losers. And when I say losers, I'm not calling anybody a loser. Again, these are great statesmen who are stepping up to represent our country. A lot of us don't have the gall to do that. So giving them a lot of credit, but just basing on their performance within the debate last night, in no particular order, I would go with Tulsi Gabbard. And she wasn't bad.
No,
she wasn't bad.
Step up.
No, she wasn't bad. It was just so many people. And listen, I'm a veteran myself, so I have a ton of respect for all veterans, and she put her life on the line for this country. We cannot question her commitment to this country. But it was just so many people, and she, just couldn't insert herself enough to stand out. And so for that particular reason, I would deem her a loser. Klobuchar, she came in with, in my mind, with some steam. A lot of friends were talking her up, in my opinion. She's a progressive champion, but she dropped the ball and just didn't stand out. There was one point where I think Rachel Maddow threw her a softball. I mean, a softball, Portia. She said, "What have you done for Black and brown communities?" Klobuchar laid a complete egg. Couldn't speak to it, didn't have any specifics. I mean, and if you talk about preparation for a debate in America in 2019.
Well, in Miami.
Yeah, in Miami, you ought to have some talking points as it relates to Black and brown individuals.
Correct.
And so I mean, she dropped the ball, and once she did that, I checked her off my list at that point. I think her best moment was when she stepped in and speaking to women's right to choose. Kind of broke up and got a little moment there, but for the most part, really, really flatlined, really didn't stand out, and didn't do herself any favors, in my opinion. Tim Ryan was essentially invisible last night, and I really don't understand, honestly, with all the respect.
I made to $100,000 donor. I asked the same question, but he made
right, yeah. I've met Tim. He's great. And he brought up some important issues, making sure that we don't forget about Middle America. He brought up some great issues. I really appreciate him lifting that up. But particularly from an overall performance standpoint, other than that, I don't really remember him being there. And I think he probably would have been best served, on another stage per se. Portia, don't do that. Don't do that. Who do I have? And so then I'll go to my good friend Beto O'Rourke. You read most blogs, you look at tweets, you look at Facebook. I think most folks will list him as last night's loser, even to the point where Van Jones said that he is done. Whereas I do not agree with Van from that standpoint that Beto is done, because I know Beto and I know he has the heart of a champion. And he will continue chugging along, hitting cities and counties across this nation. But he took a big hit last night. And here's why, in my opinion. He was prepared, but I think most Americans will agree with me, he was too prepared.
Yeah.
And he was too prepared. And so in debate, again, it's a dogfight. And you also have to be organic. And sometimes there are going to be some hits coming at you that you didn't expect, and you have to be ready to give a rebuttal. That's not rehearsed, that's not prepared, that's not on your notes, that you have to be in the moment. And I think that when the attack came from de Blasio, when the attack came from Castro and others, my good friend was not particularly prepared those hits.
Right, and that's what made me mad because I mean, come on, that just like I know my past. Come on, let that be 100. I know who I am. I know the hills will come in my help. I know who I am. If I get into a political debate with anyone, I have to be prepared in case someone brings up my past. And I have to know what it is that I want to say in order for me to be able to counteract what it is that they say to me. And that's what I saw. He was not expecting it, and I definitely agree that he wasn't prepared. You got a few comments that going in the comments. I'm trying to stop.
I think they were waiting on that part. Yeah.
David says, Dems keep talking about issues that people are not using as a deciding factor as to what candidate they vote for. If they keep this up, Trump will win again. Then she comes back with the Democratic Party is dying. Interesting discussion. It's almost 2020 and they're just doing a debate. Even if it's the time it's normally done, it should have been done. They're going to need a strong front runner. They should have had that like yesterday. Look at how much money Trump has been raising. And then John comes back and said they are bringing up issues that relate to us. And then commenting on what you said as it relates to Beto. Beto lost a lot of steam due to him being kind of a robot. Yeah. And then Jaja comes back and says issues that affect us not going to get them Trump votes right now. They have to try and get some of the other votes. Yeah. Listen to all of those comments. What are your thoughts on is the Democratic Party talking to the real people? And if what they're doing with the 20 candidates from 10 from last night, 10 from tonight, or is it too many people in the playing field to where we can't get to a front runner to where they're going to lose the steam and the money that's needed in order for him to defeat the Donald Trump machine?
Yeah. So thank you for that question. And then let's put a pin and come back to Brother Gene Chauncey's comment as well. Right. So let me just say, Donald Trump, I don't know who's running his campaign, and I'd like to give credit where it's due. They bought out the homepage for YouTube last night, knowing that people are going to go to YouTube to look at sound bites, clips, and so forth. And what do you see when you go to YouTube? Donald Trump. Name ID. Right. And so it's little brilliant tactics like that keep him in the conscience of folks and continue to rile up his base that could eventually help him secure re-election. Here's what I have an issue with the Democratic Party.
Okay.
Is that, and there's no rules around this, but I just think that 20 people, when you're going against a polarizing figure like Donald Trump, no matter how you feel about him, whether you like him or you don't, he's still polarizing, right? And we ought to be able to get into a room as a party and say, hey, we need you to run for Senate. Mm-hmm. We need you to run for this spot. We need you over here for the collective good. But we talk about being the party of unified message, but we can't get on the same page as to who should run. You got people from the same state running. You got Senate seats out here open, but we can't unify and get on the right track and get on the same bus and start moving in the right direction. But we want folks to come out in droves because we have a unified message. And it's just really confusing. Options are great. Don't get me wrong. Options are great. But as a party, we ought to be more organized and we ought to pull folks in the room and sometimes pull a little rank and say, no. You're not going to do that. We need you over here. Right. And so and that's why you see good people like Tulsi Gabbard, John Delaney being drowned out because we can't unify as a party and say, you know what's best for the greater good is that, OK, I'll run for this spot. You stand down. We'll take care of you the next time and so forth and so on. And make sure that we're in the best position as a party to not beat each other up and make sure our nominee is not wounded walking into the general election.
Right. Which is what happened last time.
Right.
Yeah. So going back to the comment that you asked me to keep up, Beto.
Yeah, and not to spend too much time on this, but I'll just say this really quickly though. I think the answers were rehearsed, and I know him. He practices and he rehearses, and he does a great job preparing himself. But the way it came over to the American people, that the answers were very rehearsed, very robotic, and not organic. And I think the American people are looking for a leader who can be proactive, but also reactive and also organic and also heartfelt in how they respond to crises, and to different issues across this country.
All right. Gloria said it's too many, talking about the Democratic Party. Shantae says, I think the Dems are showing how much they are in disarray. And then Sean comes back and said, the Democratic Party falls into the category where we have too much under one umbrella because now we are the party of all people.
Yeah.
Right, go ahead.
Let me just say this one thing too, in terms of a loser. There are two other losers from the night. The other loser was MSNBC sound team. Whoever screwed up on those mics, I've been praying for that person or those persons all night because they probably don't have a job right now.
They did have a job today, I'm sure.
Because that was a huge blunder, But two, I think as a nation, as a network, MSNBC, as moderators, as a panel, the American people who were watching and listening, there was no talk about criminal justice reform. There was no talk about community policing. There was no talk about the hell that Black and brown people are catching across this nation. And maybe the conversation will begin more so tonight. But I think it was a travesty and a huge opportunity lost that we had 10 folks vying for the seat of President of the United States, and nobody talked about it. Cory Booker mentioned it a little bit when he talked about our trans brothers and sisters being attacked and murdered and so forth. He talked about lynching as well. I give him a lot of credit for that. But other than that, nobody really lifted that up, and that told me a lot. And I made some check marks as to how I look at some of these candidates.
Even when they had the opportunity to do it by flipping it on gun control, I thought that's when it was going to come out. Shantae has a question for you. She said, if they had a meeting tonight, what would you recommend that the Democratic Party do to unify and get the vote?
I would say one of the 20 people, look at the polls, those who are polling, who are not in the top six, go do something else. Number one, so we aren't wasting resources, and asking American people who only are making a living wage to give here, give there, $25, $5 here, that I just understand that, and that's you're really tapping out, and you're going to burn out your donor base because you got a lot of people who are now first time donors and givers, but they can't decide who they really like. They like Beto, they like Gabbard, they like Mayor Pete, they like Kamala, they like Joe as well. Who do we choose? I don't think you should put folks in that type of conundrum. So one, I would say those folks who are polling below the top six drop out, and let's make sure we unify and get behind the eventual nominee. I mean, a lot of those folks know who they aren't going to win. So let's just be honest with ourselves so we can make sure we beat Trump. Secondly, and let me just say this, and we have to have a real conversation understanding that I don't know what the ticket will look like, but it has to have a Black person on it. Just say that, because what is going to bring African Americans out in this particular election? We move in droves, and the historical numbers have shown us when we see folks that look like us on the ballot, then we go out and we show up. And so the Democratic Party is serious about honoring those who have carried this nation, who have carried this party, particularly Black women. If they're serious about that, and it's not lip service, let's make sure that we make sure that a African American is on the general election ticket.
All right. Tamara said yes, they need to strategize and pick one they can get behind. Sean says, what do you think about Biden-Harris?
I think that's a very attractive ticket. I think it's a very attractive ticket to the previous point I just made. There you have an African American woman who is taking the Obama model, if you will, that she hadn't been in the Senate too long, so therefore she doesn't have a lot of quote unquote baggage to hold against her, kind of the thing that hurt Hillary. And this is her opportunity. This is the opportunity to make history. African Americans, we still have lots of opportunity to make history as it relates to the White House. And so that is a very attractive ticket. Now our brother Joe Biden, he has that connection with President Obama, whom we love dearly. But I think if it were not for that, he would be catching a lot of hell right now, because we have a lot of things to call into question when it comes to Joe Biden and his record on the crime bill, on the Hyde Amendment, and other things, right? And so, I know that he's not a perfect leader, and he's fought for this country for a long time, but you have to answer for votes that you've made in the past, comments that you've made in the past, and we should not let him off the hook. But at the same time, he could very well be our nominee, but I think we need to hold his feet to the fire, all of them, and ask the tough questions.
Jay said they don't need a black person on the ticket, period. Come on now.
They don't, or they do?
She says they don't. There you go.
Listen, and I respect that perspective, absolutely. But I just don't know what ticket outside of African American being on that ticket that will make sure and draw African Americans out.
But here's the thing about,
I mean, we've seen enough all Caucasian tickets.
My sister wanted to know why not. I don't know if she's talking to Jade or talking to you, but I want to go back to the thing about having certain people on the ticket. Tara, who you talking to with the why not? But I want to go back to that part.
Okay.
With all 20 candidates, Trump base, this is something that people don't get. Okay, Trump base is solid.
Mm-hmm.
They love him. He can go run and streak across the White House lawn.
Yeah.
And they she was talking to Tara. My sister was talking to Jada. Okay. But he can go streak across the White House lawn, and his base would support him.
Yeah.
And I don't like the fact that people insult them because that's who they support. You get what I mean?
Yeah. We all have the right to support who we want to support. We may disagree, but
but I have the right to support whoever the heck I want to support.
Absolutely.
His base is solid.
Yes.
And they're going to show up and they're going to vote.
Right.
My question is, despite the two people that's on the ticket, when it comes down to them being face to face with the Trump, who out of the 20 can beat him?
Head to head?
Head to head.
Not speaking of a ticket, just one-on-one.
Yeah, one-on-one.
In my opinion, if you let's just look at things.
Okay.
Donald Trump is in the driver's seat. He has national policy experience. He has executive experience in leading a nation. He has a huge base of millions. A lot of folks that he's kind of woke up the bear, if you will. So a lot of first-time voters are coming out, and he speaks to a certain place in a lot of Americans who feel like they were forgotten as well. He's a hell of a communicator.
I'm trying.
We may not like what he's saying when he communicates, but he's a hell of a communicator. You got to give him credit for that. And so that said, we need a hell of a communicator. We need one who has foreign policy experience. We need one who has relationships throughout Congress to get things done and get bills passed, right? And so that said, in my mind, face to face, head to head, and not saying that who I support right now, anything but to answer your question, that person, right, in my opinion, is Joe Biden, who would be the best option in terms of your question, just head to head, face to face. And number two, I would go with Kamala Harris.
Okay. Felicia said she don't think no one is strong enough. I mean, I watch and I talk to people like everyday folks and people like that. And even though, Hillary lost, one, her vice president nominee was somebody that she should not have picked. That's the first thing. The second part of that is
I forgot who it was. Oh, Tim Kaine.
I can't even think his name. What was his name?
Tim Kaine.
Yeah. We don't even know who the dude was. That's the other thing about it. And then on top of that, even though he said the craziest cliches, he was different. And in Joe, I don't see different. In Harris, I don't see different. And my thing is going head to head and convincing the people that, I watch your race, that you had in Texas.
Right,
I watched, what's her name? big girl from Georgia. I watch her race.
Stacey
Stacey
Abrams.
I watch Gilliam down in Florida.
Right, he did a great job.
They talked about how they got new voters out and young voters out, but your base didn't show up because your base is tired of the BS. And I think that that's important to understand when you're dealing with the Democratic base. They ain't coming out.
Would a generator yield for a moment? So I thank the generator for allowing me time here. But listen, who is the Democratic Party's base? Exactly. And so to that point, that's why I say if the Democratic Party is serious about speaking to their base, we're not talking about who the base was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, so forth and so on. As the shackles of Jim Crow and voter suppression continue to slowly break off, and we are taking more responsibility and really owning our right to cast a vote and to pick who leads our country, our cities, and so forth and so on. We are the base. We know a lot of folks who voted for President Obama voted for Trump this last time around. They flipped, right? And I would, if we looked at the numbers, I would guarantee you that majority of those folks aren't African American, right? So therefore, the Democratic Party's best bet going forward in this country is to make sure that you take care of African Americans. That is the base, and that's why I continue to say that an African American has to be on the ticket. If it's Booker, fine. If it's Harris, fine, but it has to be African American at some level on that ticket. If not, I think it's a slap in the face to the base of this party.
I don't think Harris will appeal to the African Americans just by her face.
It remains to be seen. I can't speak to that. I would disagree with you on that.
Why?
It remains to be seen. No, you tell me why you don't think she would speak to.
Okay. Let's see. Are we being 100? Can we be 100?
Always.
Her spouse would hurt her coming into the election simply because of the color of his skin. And even though Obama was raised by a white family, he had a black wife. You are you following me on this? And I don't think she's put, and this is one of the reasons why, and because I'm watching him, this is one of the reasons why you don't see him going into certain particular places with her when she's out there campaigning. Now let's just be 100.
Yeah.
It is strategically done.
Yeah.
And it's strategically done because of that stigma that comes with a person of color being with someone outside of their race.
Right.
And that's why I think she would not truly appeal to the base that would show up and vote, the base that showed up and voted for Doug Jones. And now that same base is saying that they're not going to do it this time. Well, when he got into office, he made this stupid statement. And the fact that people, and Shantae just said, pretty much what I'm just saying is that she's not black enough.
Hey, let me just say thank you to all the viewers who are watching right now and those who are commenting, because the comments are filling up right now. So we got to make sure we get to some of these comments in a moment. But let me take your comment for a second there, Portia. I hear what you're saying, absolutely. But they also voted, as you meant, they voted for Obama, who has a white mother, right? This country is diverse, and as I just said, that the Democratic Party's base is African American, but it's not totally African American, right? And so therefore, there are other groups of people from all backgrounds and ethnicities who have a part to play and are going to lift their voice in the Democratic Party primary and the general election as well. And I hate that we have to ding someone for whom they love, who they fell in love with, who they fell in love with. And I've never met her husband. I don't think maybe you have. He's the best guy for her. But I think that African American voters are diverse in thought enough to not ding a very good servant leader who has stepped up to lead this country and could possibly make history. I think we're more diverse in thought to just ding her just because that person is white, right? But I see your point, because he could very well go into some places in Iowa in the Midwest and speak for her, right? So I think he can be a secret weapon, if you will. and I see Shantae's comment. I don't know what black enough is. We said the same thing about President Obama, that he wasn't black enough. I could personally lift up and say that I didn't care that President Obama distanced himself from his own pastor along the way.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things to call into question there, but she has a white husband. That's fine. They love each other. This country is about diversity and making sure we support people for whomever they love, that they should have all rights and privileges. And if a black woman wants to run for president, but if she has the qualifications, and if she has a base, and if she's done the work, who cares what her husband looks like?
That's pretty much true.
As long as he combs his hair.
See what I'm saying? I cannot. Somebody said, "Oh, y'all, Shantae, you're commenting as Portia takes on the black belt. You're gonna need to switch that out." My sister said, "But Harris pissed off a lot of people off as district attorney." And I remember you brought up Bill de Blasio when he came out. He didn't have the support of the city, even though she won the Senate. She doesn't really have. Do you think she has the support of her state?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't she? Listen. Let me tell you about it, and I read those articles about folks being mad. Let me tell you something. I can't. I'm not a conservative, not a Republican, so I don't know what they got going on over there. But I'm gonna say this about Democrats. We can't complain about everything. We just pick stuff to complain about every day. We nitpick people every day about every little stuff. What is the job of a DA? To prosecute those who have been charged with crimes and so forth and so on. And so in a huge state like California, the DA is going to prosecute some black people too. Black people commit crimes just like white folks, blue folks, red folks, so forth and so on. So we're going to nitpick her because she prosecuted and put black folks in jail. She put white folks in jail too, and Asian folks in jail too as well. So I mean, yes, thank you, brother Gene Chauncey. She did her job. So like, we got to find something else to ding her on. And if that's what we're dinging her on, that means she has a pretty clean record. The DA prosecutes people, and those people are going to be from all kind of diverse backgrounds. And so, yeah, I don't subscribe to that line of thought.
All right. Jadra says, "Oh, my sister said, I get it, but you still piss people off." And people
part of leadership. If you're not pissing people off as a leader, then you ain't doing nothing. That's part of leadership. Here's my thing about it. You rub some people the wrong way.
I hear what you said about Democrat complaint. You have people that complain. You do. But at the same time, are they different? And that you mean to tell me
it's who different. It's who different.
Any of the candidates, going back to the original question,
yeah.
Are they different? Are they different enough to entice people to come? Because see, you can't use this line, and I'm just going to be honest. This line of I'm better than Trump. Anybody's better than Trump. I can't stand Trump.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I'm just so tired of it. I'm tired of the narrative. I'm tired of impeachment. I'm tired of every time he says something. I'm tired of you talking about his tweet. I'm sick of it. What are you going to do for me? Last night, honestly, outside of, my problem with healthcare is co-pays. Nobody talked about that, okay? My other problem, as it relates to gun control, I mean, most people tell me all the time, Portia, you look right-wing sometimes, but when it comes to gun control, this is my thing. I know I want a gun-toting America. God dog, I'm in the great state of Alabama. We hunt, we fish, that's what we do. Okay?
Right.
So if I know what I need to do, but if I want to go hurt somebody, I also know what needs to be done in order for me to do it to get a gun from off the street. I don't give a doggone how many policies you put in God doggone place. That would still take place. Period. I don't know what brain that these people are living in. I don't know what it is that you think that you want to do, but that whole narrative about continue to put legislation in and all that is not going to stop. You got laws in place now. Murder still happen. Rape still happen. Robbery still happen with the same law that were put in place because people once said that this is a problem and laws need to be in place. So it's not going to decrease it at all. Okay, that's the other thing that's my problem. The last thing that is my problem that I did not hear.
Tell us how you really feel, Portia.
Is the environmental issue. That's the stuff that I'm saying. That the Democratic Party have not seen, are not seen. And people are out here struggling.
So I think you and I met at an environmental justice convening. Where were we? We were in where was that? At Georgia?
Was in Atlanta?
Yeah, it was in Atlanta where you and I met, and so you and I have been on the front lines, and you more so than I. And I think that's why you are a Booker groupie, because he came down to Uniontown. And he was one of the ones who came and listened to you all and understood what the issues were. And so I think most of the candidates outside of Booker are oblivious to what's going on in communities of color when it comes to not so much just, I mean, you got climate change is one thing. That's the sexy thing right now. But when you get real down into the details, when you talk about environmental justice, when you talk about 60% of African Americans living near a coal-fired plant, when you talk about these young children having asthma as well, when you talk about Black and brown folks being in dilapidated housing that leads to lead poisoning as well. When you talk about what's happening in Flint, and we still don't have basic rights of clean air and clean water, none of the candidates are really speaking to that issue. Maybe we'll hear it tonight, right? But that is a huge issue that needs to be lifted up. And you have so many, as we know, so many folks who have been tirelessly working on the ground to lift up these issues, but it still hasn't resonated to the White House in some type of way, and resonated into the Democratic Party and these particular candidates, as Black and brown people continue to suffer and die. I do appreciate that they talked about sunny day flooding in Miami. I do appreciate that they talked about flooding in Harvey and Houston and those places. But we got to drill down into the details, because what a lot of people don't know is that what happened to Freddie Gray was an environmental issue. If you really dig down into the details, because he had lead poisoning in his blood, and so he couldn't hear, right? Because of the housing that he lived in. A lot of people don't know that. And so that is a huge civil rights, human rights issue that we need to lift up in this country. And I would love to hear more folks who are vying for the spot of President of the United States to lift up that issue on tonight and going forward.
And if you want to talk about crime, if you look at all the crime that is happening, and look at those communities, and look at the poison that goes into those communities, it is in a reactionary thing of the poison that are going into these people's bodies. I look at Selma, Alabama. Selma, Alabama has the paper mill plant over there. Once production increased, you begin to see an increase in crime happening in Selma, and you want to bring, and then on top of that, with the increase of the environmental toxin that's pouring out into their community, plus drug activity that they're ingesting in their body, when those two chemicals collide, that's your problem. And until you realize those particular things, you have to be correct on that. It does play a role in what happens in certain communities based on the environmental toxins that are being allowed in those communities. All right, so you got a few comments.
What these comments talking about, Portia?
Okay, Gloria said, because we got 10 minutes before the next 8 minutes, so we got to hurry up. So Gloria said, she doesn't think that Kamala will bring out the black voter. And let me make this note, that's one of her sorors that said that. I just want to throw that in. That's one of her sorors that made that statement there. I just want to throw that in. Okay. This supposed to be Shantae, but she come in on mine. But she said white women love her. Black folks think she's goddish, and she's well known. I'm just saying. I'm trying to see what she's talking about.
Really quickly, I'll just say we a lot of Black folks were skeptical of Obama as well, and so she has some time. She has some time to prove herself and to change that narrative in certain communities. But I'll tell you, down here in Houston, they love Kamala Harris. They love her. This Houston is inside Harris County, and so what her campaign has done is say this is Harris country, and they love her. They love when she came. I mean, they folks showed up in droves, and so hey.
Shantae said, Damien, go ahead and join the candidacy. You got my vote. Sean said he agreed with you about Freddie Gray.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother.
He said, let me see. Who's that? Willa, thank you for joining in. She said, connected that. That's not including the lack of healthy food options in rural areas. That is true. Urban
areas too.
Yeah, it said someone said that people in Atlanta love her too. All right, so we got 7 minutes before the date. So let's tie everything in.
Yeah.
Right, you gave me your top 5 for this debate. I want you to give me your top 5 predictions for the debate that's going to happen in 7 minutes.
For tonight, wow. Give me the rundown of who's there tonight. It's so many. I'm so sorry.
No,
there needs to be like a gift card given out. You need to give out $100 gift card to the person that can name all 3,500 of these presidential.
Exactly. Tonight you got Joe Biden, Mike Bennett, Pete Buttigieg, Christine Gillibrand, Kamala Harris, John Hickenlooper, Bernie Sanders, Edward Swalwell, Marianne Williamson, and Andrew Yang. I would like to see him over like the Federal Reserve, but that's just my personal opinion.
So here's my prediction. Here's my prediction, and I have a lot of friends who are in the building tonight down in Miami. Myra, Jeff, Roosevelt, and other friends that are down there tonight. And here's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
And I think most Americans are looking for the top runners: Bernie, Kamala, and Joe. Let's hear what they have to say. I think those are the 3 folks that I will be focusing on, because one of those 3 people will be the Democratic Party nominee. That I can assure you. One of those 3 persons will be. What I'm not looking forward to, and that I want, and I expect some attacks to come his way, and I hope moderators pay attention to what's happening in the state of Indiana and take some questions to him. I want Mayor Pete to catch some heat, and I want him to answer the tough questions about what's happening on the ground there as it relates to Black and brown people in South Bend. I think he did a poor job of responding to and answering his community with that particular issue. I thought he was condescending, and I thought he shouldn't be on the stage tonight. He ought to drop out as of yesterday. And so that's what I'm looking for on that end, and I expect him to be the biggest loser. And that comes just from my straight up passion and love for Black and brown folks. But I'm looking for Bernie to stand tall and to give us and lay it all out and let us know why he wants to be president. I want Kamala to stand tall and to make her case, and also to those folks who think she's not Black enough, those who think that she prosecuted too many people. And I'm looking for Vice President Biden to just shore up those folks who believe in him, those folks who are Obama loyalists, who may be a little shaky right now, that he's had a tough 2 weeks or what have you, but he still stayed in the fray. To him to kind of shore those people up and come out with some energy, because he's often flat sometimes. We want to see him with some great energy and tell the American people why he wants to lead this nation.
All right. Willie Weir says, will you guys do a post-debate talk at some point? Yes, it will be next Thursday. We would do it at my regular time, which is 8 p.m. Central Time. The only reason why the show was an hour early tonight was because we knew that the second debate would be tonight at 8. So next week, Willie, join us. He'll be back. My sister said it's 100 people running. Actually, it's what, 730?
It's 748 registered according to the FEC, which is
and it's ridiculous.
Right. Did you register to run for president?
I know. I didn't. It's registered to do that. Gloria said Delaware is definitely for Joe. He lives up the street from her.
Okay.
She's from Delaware. The Black Lives Matter, come get him out of here. Who said Black Lives Matter? I don't know. Maybe I missed it.
You talking about Mayor Pete? Mayor Pete.
Oh, Mayor Pete. Black Lives. Oh yeah. Willie says thank you. Gloria comes back and says, I think the voters have to do a little more research of the candidate because it is so many. And that's what we talked about earlier. Since you were late to the show, Gloria, that's what he talked about earlier.
Of course, if somebody in your viewership can create an app where we can just put all the candidates in it and all their bios, their voting record, where they live, what kind of car they drive, what kind of food they eat. Because it's too much to keep up with.
Really will be wanting to know that stuff. That's the part that be killing me. They really be wanting to know that stuff. Finna be like the scene off of like I'm the Pappy. Oh, talking about everybody.
Right.
All right. Shantae says she running. Everybody running. Just run.
Right.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, guys. It's 2 minutes before the debate. Make sure you watch the second half of the debate tonight. We're gonna come back next week. Bring your comments. I enjoyed the show. I think we did. I think it was really, really good, D. You did.
Thank you for having me, Portia. Really appreciate it.
And we're gonna be able to take the first debate and the second debate and combine it, and maybe we can decrease the number, for us.
I hope. It's some people sitting at home right now from last night, and they know what they need to do.
Exactly.
Know they need to extra stage left.
Turn in to find. I think after tonight, they just might do that.
They need to hook up with whoever messed up those microphones and just and go sit at home.
And they did on purpose. Shantae said, "Thank you, both. This was great."
Thank you, Shantae. Really appreciate it.
Gloria said, "Thank y'all," and Samantha said, "Great job." Thank you guys for tuning in tonight for Portia Takes on the Black Belt and Beyond. The debate starts in 1 minute. Tune in, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.
You think you Tamron Hall, don't you?
Bye, man. Don't you?
Bye. I'll see you later.
From Montgomery to Hill, Greene County and Paris, Portia taking on the Black Belt, and she ain't scared. Marengo County, something county, Will, Cops, and Barbara. Interviewing everybody, sister, brothers, and mamas. It's Portia.